"You're gonna cry in front of all these people, princess," the man sneered, cracking his knuckles as a circle of onlookers roared with laughter and cruel anticipation. The air was thick with the stench of sweat, beer and testosterone inside the grimy underground warehouse. All eyes were on the woman, quiet, curvy, and wrapped in a plain grey hoodie that barely hid her striking figure. She looked like she'd wandered in from a yoga class, not like someone who belonged in a ring with a monster like Dino, a towering beast of a man, muscles like concrete, unbeaten in 27 fights. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. She just stood there, hands at her sides, the calm before a storm no one saw coming. The bell rang. He lunged at her like a freight train. She shifted slightly, just enough to let his punch whiff through the air. The crowd oohed, then laughed. "She's lucky," someone shouted. "Won't last another 30 seconds." But Dino's face twisted with fury. "You're dead," he growled, launching another swing, this time faster, angrier. She ducked again, and then it happened. Her hand flew upward with surgical precision, a sharp palm strike under his chin that echoed like a gunshot. His body went stiff. For one eerie second, he stood frozen, then dropped like a tree, face first into the mat. Silence swallowed the room. No one moved, no one breathed. The undefeated Titan had been dropped in one hit, by a woman half his size. Then the chaos erupted. Phones came out, screams filled the air. Bets were lost, pride shattered. But she simply stepped over his body, didn't even glance back, and walked off into the shadows like nothing had happened. Someone in the back gasped. "That's Elena Torres, the MMA prodigy who disappeared. A name like a ghost story. Once a rising star, a legend in the making who had vanished from the scene years ago without a trace." What they didn't know was her story. Elena had walked away from fame after the accident that changed everything. Her younger brother Diego, only 14 at the time, had tried to mimic one of her moves. A single slip, a broken spine, and a lifetime in a wheelchair. The guilt crushed her. She stopped fighting, stopped living, moved into a tiny apartment, caring for him every day, working whatever jobs she could find. She vowed never to raise her hands in violence again, until last week, when rent notices piled up and Diego's caregiver walked out. The underground circuit was fast cash. She signed up under a fake name, hid her face beneath a hoodie. It wasn't about proving anything, it was survival. But destiny doesn't forget its champions. That night, the video of her knockout hit TikTok and exploded. Millions of views in hours. People were obsessed. Comments flooded in. Real-life anime moment. She moved like she knew the future. That slap ended his bloodline. But not everyone was celebrating. Dino's promoter was furious. He saw his prizefighter humiliated on the world stage and wanted revenge. He came to Elena's door with a check. She shut it in his face. The next day he returned, not with money, but with a threat. "You either fight again, or I make sure your brother never gets another doctor in this city." Her jaw tightened. That night she kissed Diego's forehead and left a note. "For us. For good this time." What followed was a storm, 5 fights in 4 weeks. Each opponent more vicious than the last. Some were twice her size, some came in pairs. She didn't flinch, didn't talk, just dodged, struck, and walked away. They started calling her Ghost Palm. No one could explain how she moved like that. Some said pressure points, others claimed she trained with monks in the mountains. But only Diego knew the truth. She fought with guilt, with pain, with a heart that still bled for him. The final setup was brutal, a 3-man gauntlet, a final test designed to break her. The first 2 fell easily, and then came Dino, back for revenge, bigger, meaner, humiliated. "You got lucky," he hissed through clenched teeth. "This time I crush you." But Eleanor just stared at him, calm as ever, and whispered, "You never stood a chance." What followed didn't feel like a fight, it felt like poetry. Every punch he threw missed, every step he took, she'd already moved. And then, one final strike to the throat, software silent, devastating. He hit the floor and didn't get back up. The warehouse didn't cheer, it stood in stunned silence. And then, slowly, people began to clap. Not the rowdy cheers from earlier, but the kind of applause you give to a master artist. Respect. Awe. The promoter was arrested days later in a sting operation. Elena vanished again, this time on her own terms, but her legend only grew. The videos never stopped circulating. Every once in a while someone would write, "She didn't fight to win. She fought to heal." And Diego? He walks now. They said it was impossible, but he swears it started the day he saw his sister knock down a giant with a single touch. Before we end this story, let us know in the comment where are you watching from. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button and drop a karma in the comments below.